We're motivated to use people who aren't that talented. You'll find out how much you love people if you have to use them when there's not much talent there, right? And do you really love that person when they get up and they don't sing so well the first time and don't show up at the time that you want them to and lead that ministry the way that you ask them to? Do you still love that person then when things are difficult? That's when you really find out how much you love people. We must have that love for people as a Christian leader, as a leader of good character. If we're not loving those people, then what are we doing? What is our motivation to lead if it isn't for those people? And that's the conversation that Jesus had with Peter. Peter, do you love me? Well, of course I do, Lord. Then feed my sheep. Peter, do you love? Of course I love you. Then feed my sheep. And again, then feed my sheep. And so he's telling Peter, if you really love me, then you'll love those people that I love. You'll care for the people that I'm caring for. That Peter, really the way that you show that you love me is by loving other people. It's hard, it's really difficult to love God directly. We have to love God by loving other people. Jesus had even said, like, what is the big deal really? What benefit is there if you love those who love you? If you give to those who have given to you, well, big deal. Even sinners do that. Even sinners return love to people that love them. That's no big deal. And so the point was that as Christians, we go beyond that. We love people before they ever love us. And we give to people before they've ever given to us. And really, if we think about that, it makes it really difficult to love God. That how can we love God before He loves us, right? How do we get to that? He's already loved us. He beat me to that, right? How can I ever love Him? He's already loved me, and it be a love that matters. We do it through loving other people. That's how we love God in a genuine way. That's how we show we have a true love. If we're not loving other people, we're just returning love to God that He's already given to us. And Jesus said that's not a big deal. But He said that if you fed me when I was hungry, right? That you clothed me when I was naked, when I was in prison, you came and visited for me. He said, all these things you did for the least of these, you did it unto me. And so that's how we really love God, is through loving other people. And as leaders, we're very much called to love people and to do things for unselfish motives. We do it because we love people. Because Jesus said, if you love me, then you'll feed my sheep. If you love me and you're a shepherd, you're going to look after those sheep. You're going to make sure that they're not in danger. You're going to make sure that they're fed. They're led among the still water. Right? They're not going to be in a place of danger, but you're going to keep those sheep safe because you love God. And you show that you really love God by the way that you love other people. And so another key point for a leader in their character is their integrity, which really is that what are you doing when no one is looking? What are you doing with your power? Now you've worked so hard to get here. Now what are you going to do that you have the authority? Now that it's easy to do things when no one's watching you, what are you going to do with that control over finances? What are you going to do when no one else is around, when you're traveling? What are you going to do with the power that you hold over people when it could be easy to manipulate them? David said that the Lord showed him that the man who rules over men must be just in ruling the fear of God. So integrity is honesty, it's truthfulness, honor, uprightness, and reliability. It all makes up our integrity. Are we being true to what we've told the people we are going to do? Right? Are we being upright? Are we being holy when no one is watching? Are we maintaining our walk with God when no one is looking? Even though no one can see our prayer life, are we being a person of prayer? Are we staying in the Word when we're telling the people that they need to be reading the Word? Are we handling the finances and church finances and on in so many areas where people can't see us? Are we being who we say that we are? And are we being what we're telling the other people to be? Are we practicing what we're preaching to our congregations? Psalm 25 and 21 says, "Let integrity and uprightness preserve me, for I wait on thee." And so, summing up the character of the leader's character either validates or invalidates his leadership. There are a lot of leaders, or so-called leaders, that have a lot of talent, that have a lot of skill, but they have no integrity, they have no character, and this will disqualify them. Because if you don't have character, if you don't have that integrity, you might be a leader for a short time, but eventually that's going to come out in the way that you lead. Those things do come out in the line. And so often our integrity is about 70% of what we do out of the pulpit and 30% of what we're saying in the pulpit. And leadership, even as a pastor, is so much more than what we're preaching on Sunday. But a lot of the real work, a lot of what shows how great of a leader we are, is going to be done outside of what we are preaching. And so it's better to be weak in preaching, to not be as good of a public speaker, and strong in those other areas in our life, to be strong in our prayer, to be strong in loving people and for caring for them. Be strong in those other areas. If you can only have one or the other, be strong in those other areas and be weak in preaching. Because as a pastor, that's what we're called to. We're called to protect the people, to care for them and love them. You can bring in an evangelist. You can have other people in your church that are developed to be good at public speaking and at preaching. But as a pastor, you are called to care for those people, to love them, and to pray for them. And that's the majority of what you do as a ministry leader. You have to be concerned about those people. And if the public speaking is not really there, well, you can hold up okay if you have those other qualities. There are a lot of great pastors who will tell you that they are not the greatest preachers. And there have been great men in our movement that were not great preachers, but they were great men of God, and they were great pastors because they cared for their people, and they really taught them how to live for God and how to do it with passion, even though they weren't great preachers. They had people around them that were great preachers. They brought in great evangelists and other people who were good at public speaking, but they were good at leading. They were men of character and of integrity. So just kind of ending with some discussion, what are some character flaws that you think would disqualify a person for leadership? What are some character flaws that would disqualify a person from leadership?
Being selfish.
Being selfish.
Consumed by yourself.
Egotistical. Have you now it doesn't have to be like super close to you, it could be like something that you've seen from a distance, but do you know of some examples of this?
Yeah, like world leaders.
World leaders?
Politicians.
Yes, yeah. So yeah, that kind of goes back into that secular versus Christian leadership. Then yeah, certainly we see it there. Do you think it pops up within Christian leadership?
I think selfishness can pop up. Because we're all still in the flesh.
Right.
And sometimes we all have like different things going on in our lives. Yeah.
What's maybe the temptation to act selfishly as a Christian leader?
Because you can gain something.
Yeah. Is it well, does it come through through being served? Does it come through Um, maybe the lack of oversight sometimes in church finances. Where does that maybe really hands-on, where does that selfishness come in at?
I think it can be on both.
Yeah.
Because you like being like, yeah, like you said, you like being served, you like being, rather than serving others, you just want them to do stuff for you rather than giving back to them.
Right. Right, yeah, and it is easy to fall into that as a leader, to enjoy people. You know, a lot of times people do want to honor their pastor, and it can be easy to get caught up in that, and then to expect it all the time, and then demand it all the time, and manipulate people in that way, because then it's easy for leaders to turn around and say, well, you're not honoring those who deserve honor. And look at all that I've done for you. You know, God's not going to be pleased if you don't honor me in this way. And so it has been easy at times for people to fall into that temptation. Do you think there's some examples of this in the Bible, of some characters that did not have good character or
like
integrity? Saul,
Old Testament.
Yeah, so Saul was definitely someone who desired, well, really what you were talking about, right? Being egotistical or narcissistic, because he allowed that jealousy to take over, right? When people weren't praising him as much as they were David, and so that really took over his life. And say that it's really important what we do as leaders when no one is watching, because even for pastors, there's a lot of time that we spend when no one else is watching, and it's important what we do in that life. We've had a significant leader in the movement in the past that's fallen away because of what they were doing in secret, and the morality of their life, because there was a lot of time when no one was watching, and lost that fear of God, thinking, I'm in this place of power, no one's watching, I can do this and get away with it. And so it's important as leaders to have accountability. It's like you say, even as leaders, we're in the flesh, right? And so we're still going to have those temptations there. And so it's good to have that safeguard, to have people that we hold ourselves accountable to. As leaders, we need to have leaders in our lives. Even as pastors, we need to have a pastor that holds veto power in our life and can say no. As your pastor, you might be a pastor, but you're at least saying, I'm your pastor, so I'm going to look after you and protect you too, and so I'm going to say no in this situation, that you shouldn't do this. And so it's really dangerous for leaders, because we have so much more time that's protected and not seen by others. And so it's important that we have someone we can hold ourselves accountable to. So looking at some qualifications for leaders. And this kind of sums up what we've been talking about here. The leader's own life must be in order. That doesn't mean that their life is perfect, but it must be in order, right? We have to have our spiritual life in order, spending that time in prayer, holding ourselves, being pure, being holy in our personal life. The leader's home must be in order. Once again, not perfect, but in order. It doesn't mean the children are acting like angels all the time, but are we pulling them back into order? Are we doing what we're supposed to be doing as parents, as leaders of our home? The leader must fear God and be humble. We have to keep that fear of God and not think that we've gotten to that point like God where we're accountable to no one else. We have to keep that humility and remember that we're here to serve others, which goes into that next one. The leader must love people. That's what we're called to do as shepherds. We have to love the sheep, protect the sheep, and care for them. And the leader must have integrity. What are we doing when no one else is watching? Are we holding true to our word? Are we being holy, righteous people? All right. So that's what we have today for the character of a leader. Is there anything you want to add to this? Anything else you've thought of?
I guess perseverance. Like when it gets tough, just keep going.
That is definitely one there. It's very difficult in a place of leadership because you often feel like giving up, and so a good leader does have that. Yes, it's excellent. Might have to add that one to the list. All right. Okay. Well, if there's nothing else, I guess that will be the end for now, and we will come back in January.
Well, see you next year.
Yes, exactly. Next year. I'm thinking I'm going to, because I've stepped in on this for Brother Kelly. It's my first time doing it, but I'm thinking we actually move on to holiness next term. I think is what we do.
I think it's still different leadership.
Okay.
Still leadership, but different.
Okay.
Different aspects.
All right. Well, I'll have to take a look at that, see what material he has. I'm liking this though without the homework. That's pretty nice for both sides of this. Grading's not fun either, so hopefully that continues throughout his material.
And hopefully Sion can join us.
All right. Well, there's nothing else. I guess I will let you go at this point then.
Thank you.
All right. God bless. We'll see you later, Samantha.